Ready to go.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you to the ACF committee meeting. I'm Senator Jim Dill, and I'm the Senate Chair of the committee. We have 3 items on our agenda today. LD 626, they're all work sessions. LD 626, an act to clarify temporary mooring privileges for moorings on inland waters. LD 1942, an act to make changes to the state's hemp program. If anybody's here for that, we are not doing that one today. We're still working on it, so we are going to postpone today's work session until later. So that brings us down to what would be the third, or only really the second item for today that we'll be discussing, and that's LD 1944, an act to provide the State Harness Racing Commission greater efficiency in rules enforcement. And with that, I will start with introductions. Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning. Russ Black from Wilton. I represent Senate District 17, which is all of Franklin County and 4 towns in Kennebec: Belgrade, Mount Vernon, Vienna, and Fayette. Thank you.
Representative Hall.
Good morning, Randy Hall from Wilton. I represent District 114, 6 towns in southern Franklin County.
Representative Schofield.
Good morning, Senator Dill and everyone. My name is Tom Schofield, and I represent House District 112. I live in the town of Weld, and I represent 17 towns and townships in Franklin and Somerset counties, the High Peaks region of Maine.
Senator Maxman.
Hi, I'm Chloe Maxman. I represent Senate District 13, which is Lincoln County plus the towns of Washington and Windsor.
Representative Landry.
Good morning, everyone. Scott Landry. I live in Farmington, represent District 113, Farmington and New Sharon.
Representative Osher.
Good morning. I'm Lori Osher. I represent District 123, which is the majority of Orono, the home of the University of Maine.
Representative Pluko, you are here. Want to introduce yourself? Can you hear me?
He looks frozen.
He does look frozen. It looks cold out the back window too. So let's see. Representative McCray, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you very much, Senator Dill. I'm Dave McCray. I live and represent the center part of District 148 up in the county. I am en route to Augusta right now, so I have my video off. And when I finish my introduction here, I'd like to have Cheryl mute me so that you don't get the background noise. So I will be listening all morning, and we'll go from there. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. There are other committee members that will probably be in and out. I know that House Chair O'Neill is presenting a bill in another committee, so she will be joining us when she can. And so with that, we'll probably need to get started. As I said, I'm Senator Jim Dill. I represent Senate District number 5, which is Northern Penobscot County. And our first bill this morning for the work session is LD 626, an act to clarify temporary mooring privileges for moorings on inland waters. And I see, Cheryl, that Representative Stearns is in the audience in the attendee list. Would you let him in case we have any questions for him, please?
Yes, sir. He's on his way.
And our clerk today is Cheryl McGowan, and our analyst is Karen Netto. And I will turn to Karen right now to tell us about LD 626.
Thank you, Senator Dill. So I won't go over, I won't summarize what the original draft said, but I think we all heard at the public hearing, and some of you heard this more than once, since the chairs of IF&W also sit on this committee, that what precipitated this bill was there were more and more people putting floating camps and structures on Maine waters. So there were concerns and questions about that. You know, are these floating structures and camps legal? Are they regulated somehow? Do they meet the definition of watercraft? Is it really just a mooring placement problem? Does current law regulate them in any fashion, et cetera? So there were a lot of questions. And so what has happened is the IF&W committee heard this bill last March. Looks like they went right into work session, voted to carry the bill over. And they also voted to send a letter to the commissioner of IF&W asking her to work with the Department of ACF on this issue over the interim, which they did. And Deputy Commissioner Tim Peabody basically presented his report, that report as a result of that work over the interim as his testimony. So in addition to the Department of IF&W, the Department of ACF, the director of the Submerged Lands Program, and Maine Municipal testified at the public hearing last week. And I'll back up. IF&W, obviously, the committee voted to re-refer LD 626 to the ACF committee in March. So we had the public hearing last week, and those three entities testified. And I guess I would characterize their testimony as, I guess, neither for nor against officially, but I don't think they support the bill as originally drafted, but they certainly support addressing the issue. And it seems like, I think Representative Stearns, the sponsor of the bill, had proposed this in the first regular, was to turn the act into a resolve and ask the agencies and other interested parties to work on this. And at the public hearing last week, both departments did testify because this is such a complex issue. Various agencies have regulatory authority over watercraft, docks and floats, waterway markers, submerged lands. They feel like they need more time to sort of unravel this and figure it out and come up with a recommendation and possibly some statutory changes. So I think the difference here is, I think, because of the work they did over the interim, they realized that the Department of ACF should probably take the lead on this, and it may be more of a submerged lands issue. So what they suggest is that the Department of ACF be the lead agency, work with IF&W, certainly get input from Maine Municipal Association and the Maine Harbor Masters Association. And they will work on coming up with recommendations, including suggested statutory changes. And they asked, at least the director, John Knoll from the Department of ACF, asked that they have a report back date of January 2024. So that would be the second regular session of the 131st. And I think I heard from him, as well as the other two entities that testified, that the issues are really complex and they do feel like that time frame is necessary. And I guess I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay, great. Any questions for Karen? Seeing none, I would, Representative Stearns, good morning.
Good morning.
Since this is your bill and you worked it, first, before I go there, Senator Black, you have a question for Karen, or you're muted, Senator Black?
Sorry about that. I was going to get ready to make a motion, so I'll wait till you talk to Representative Stearns.
So Representative Stearns, I just want to clarify that, since this is your bill and you have worked on it yourself in the past, you're all set with us turning this into a resolve and having them report back probably in January of 2024.
Absolutely. I think that Karen Netto did a spot on job in laying out the entire situation. I'm fully on board with that. And it is a complex matter and it's going to require that amount of time for certain.
Great, thanks. Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry about that.
Nope.
I would like to make a motion that we do exactly what Karen brought up. We've had it in IFW and now we've got it in ACF, and I think she spelled it out pretty good. Turn this into a resolve and have a report back, with the ACF being lead and IFW being secondary, and make sure that we include, the stakeholders and come back in January 2024 with a recommendation.
Okay, so report back in 2024 from a stakeholders group and giving the ACF committee the authority to report out a bill on this. Correct? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Okay. Seconded by Representative Schofield. You have a question, Representative Schofield? You seconded it.
I saw,
Yep. Seconded by Representative Schofield. Any discussion? Seeing none. Cheryl, would you please call the roll?
Yes, LD 626 turned into a resolve. Is that what we're doing?
Ought to pass as a resolve, right?
Okay, thank you. So ought to pass as a resolve with a report back. Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black.
Yes.
Senator Russell Black, yes. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Maggie O'Neill, absent. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield.
yes.
Representative Thomas Schofield, yes. Representative Laurie Osher. Representative Laurie Osher, absent. Representative Joseph Underwood, absent. Representative Scott Landry.
Yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative William Pluker.
Yes.
Representative William Pluker, yes. Representative Jeffrey Gifford, absent. Representative David McCray, absent. Representative Susan Bernard, absent. 7 yes and 6 absent.
So on LD 626 ought to pass as amended. And that was 7 with 6 absent, so it passes. And we will end the work session on LD 626 and act to clarify temporary mooring privileges for moorings on inland waters. And we will go on to the next work session, which is LD 1944, an act to provide the State Harness Racing Commission greater efficacy in rules enforcement. And would you please let in Representative Dunphy, please, begin with?
Nope. Here she comes.
While she's coming in, Representative Pluka, would you introduce yourself, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been having some problems with the internet this morning. My name is Bill Pluker. I represent House District 95, which is Warren, Hope, Appleton, and part of Union.
Great, thank you. So I'll come back to Karen. Karen, would you tell us about LD 1944?
Sure. This bill specifically authorizes the Maine State Harness Racing Commission to enter into consent agreements to resolve violations of laws relating to harness racing. I think we heard from Representative Dunphy's testimony, as well as Executive Director of the Commission, Henry Jennings, that the Commission has entered into consent agreements in the past. And Henry Jennings sent an email or some additional information just this morning. Representative O'Neill had asked for some background on what brought about the need for this bill at this time. And so I think what happened was Executive Director Jennings had forwarded a draft policy governing the process of executing consent agreements to the Office of the Attorney General. And after review, the Attorney General's office discovered a potential conflict in the law. So that's why this bill, it sounds like, was brought forward. So that was the genesis of the conflict identification. It wasn't, I think he alluded to some change in law, but it wasn't that. It was just kind of a review of the policy. So anyway, interestingly, the commission has the authority in Title 8, Section 275B, to establish a schedule for fines for violations of Chapter 11, Title 8, the harness racing law and corresponding rules. So they have authority to levy fines after notice and hearing for violations. And the commission would like to resolve violations more quickly in certain circumstances where a potential return of the race purse is called for. So for example, there's a horse participating in a race licensed by the commission, and prohibited substances may be found in the horse's system. And so the horse is disqualified. And the commission feels that it's unfair for that disqualified participant to retain the purse that's been acquired unfairly while distribution of the purse to the rightful recipients is delayed because of the adjudicatory process. So we only heard testimony in support of the bill from the commission and also the Maine Harness Horsemen's Association. And there was no testimony in opposition, or neither for nor against. There was a question about what is the difference between the adjudicatory process and or adjudication and consent agreements. And I think it's important to note that because the commission itself levies the fines and penalties in this case, the courts aren't involved unless there's an appeal. So adjudication of administrative penalties, there's a structured administrative process in the Administrative Procedures Act, APA, Title V. That's all laid out with notice and public hearing and public participation. And then, you know, of course, a consent agreement is like a contract. It's an agreement to settle the matter instead of going through the adjudicatory process. So the parties consent to a resolution and are bound by it. And the agency or any party to the agreement can go to court to enforce the agreement. And I guess the last thing I'll say, he's not here right now, but Representative Underwood did ask me to draft an amendment, and I sent it to you all. Basically, there were a couple of things that were brought up at the public hearing as possible amendments. One of them was to add an emergency preamble to the bill. So if the legislature moves forward with this, that it would be in place in time for the beginning of the harness racing season. And then the other part that was brought up by the commission to strike the words the alleged violator from the list of those who could enter into a consent agreement. I think maybe that was just an oversight when the bill was drafted. So the consent agreement would only be entered into by the licensee, the commission, and the Department of the Attorney General. I think that was the original intent anyway. So that's all I have.
Before I ask for any questions, Cheryl, would you let in Henry Jennings, please? I think we have a couple questions possibly for him. Good morning. Anyone else have any questions for Karen? If not, Representative Dunphy, good morning.
Good morning. It's nice to see everybody.
Any thoughts on the bill that you may have had since the hearing that you'd like to share? Okay. Very good.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the committee for the work. I agreed with the amendments. I agreed with Karen and appreciate your considering it.
Okay. Any questions for Representative Dunphy? Senator Black. Should we tell him he's muted? Just let him.
No,
continue?
don't bother tell me. Anyway, thank you for being here, Representative Dunphy. Is there any need of the emergency preamble?
Only so this would be in effect for the upcoming harness racing season.
Okay. We can ask that to Henry Jennings too. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, that's part of the reason. Any other questions for Representative Dunphy? That was part of the reason why I asked Director Jennings in, because my concern is that, of course, making an emergency, as you know, we have to have 2/3 vote. And sometimes you just never know where that's going to go. So my question to you, Henry, is kind of to follow up with what Senator Black said. And if we didn't make it an emergency, it probably wouldn't go into effect until, like, the middle of July. Would that create a real hardship on, adjudication versus consent agreements? If you had to wait until the middle of July before you could start, consent agreements?
I'd just say, good morning, members of the committee and Senator Dill. My name is Henry Jennings, and I'm the Executive Director for the Maine State Harness Racing Commission. To get to your question, Senator Dill, I would say no. We're in this for the long haul. We really want to make sure we get this, resolved, because if you look across state government, almost every agency, especially the licensing agencies, use this tool for probably about north of 90% of the violations that they result. So it's important to get it done, whether it's 3 months later than ideal is not going to make a huge difference in the long run. We would like to have that tool as soon as possible, but if we're jeopardizing the possibility of this going through, I would say let's err on the side of caution.
So when does the racing season start? May?
April 8th.
April 8th, okay. So let me just ask the process, and then I'll go to Representative Landry. So if there was an infraction, between April 8th and, let's say, July 15th, and you were going to do, have to adjudicate it in some fashion, how long would that probably take, before a hearing would be set up? Versus the question that I would have is, if you can do a consent agreement, I'm not sure if it's retroactive. See what I'm saying? That if the infraction was in May, I don't know that necessarily, I assume you could reach out to the individual and just say, we had an infraction in May, we're working on adjudication, but now we can do a consent agreement, and you can actually do that. So I guess what I'm getting at is, it going to delay a person that might have an infraction in the interim versus a consent agreement in the middle of July? If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think, are you asking about the retroactivity of the?
Yeah, what I'm getting at is, if you had an infraction in May, and the regulation is that, it has to be adjudicated, and then in the middle of, and you haven't adjudicated it yet, and then comes the middle of July, and now we say, oh, you guys can reach a consent agreement. What I'm wondering is, can you then go to that individual and say, hey, can we do a consent agreement? Or does it have to be adjudicated the way it was in effect when the infraction happened?
Well, I think it's a legal question, and I'm not trained in law, but if I was going to speculate, I would say no. Laws typically aren't retroactive, so
right.
We'd have.
So you'd have to adjudicate it the way it was when the infraction occurred. I'm just trying to get to the point of, do we make it, an emergency, and hopefully it would pass, but I'm just a little nervous about that. But Representative Landry.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Thank you, Mr. Jennings. I agree that I would make a motion that we pass this bill as amended without the emergency amendment, just the second amendment.
Okay. Is there a second on that? Representative Hall, yep, Representative Hall seconded it. Discussion, Representative Pluker.
I'm happy to pass this bill either with the emergency preamble or not. I am very open to passing it with the preamble and then stripping it on the floor if it doesn't pass on the first go round. But that's my 2 cents.
And that is certainly an option. Further discussion on this? Anybody think that we should have the preamble and strip it on the floor if necessary, or just keep it without the preamble? Representative Pluker.
If I wasn't clear, I think it makes sense to pass it with the preamble. Not that I feel like I would certainly vote for this motion and support this motion, but it does seem, just to get it moving more quickly, it seems like it might be what's needed. But happy to vote on this motion either way.
Yep, I hear you. Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I would ask the bill sponsor what your preference was. I doesn't make any difference to me. I think I have to agree with Representative Pluker that after thinking about it, especially if we come out of here with a unanimous vote, I would think that it would go, and if it doesn't, we could strip it. But I'd like to know what the bill sponsor, her preference would be.
Thank you, Senator Black. I agree with that. Run it with the emergency, and if it doesn't work, we strip it. It's not a controversial bill, and I think this is a good change, and the industry wants it. But I would also say I would defer to Mr. Jennings. He's an expert in this arena, but I'm happy either way. But I would go with Senator Black.
Representative Landry, would you like to reconsider your motion?
Yes, I was just afraid we weren't going to get it through, and where we can strip it later on the floor. Let's go for it.
Is that okay with you, Representative Hall? You had seconded it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. I'm in agreement. Yes.
Okay, so we'll go with it as amended with Representative Underwood's amendment of the 2 sections. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Cheryl, please call the roll.
Yes, LD 1944 ought to pass as amended with the emergency. Is that preamble or?
Yes.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's as amended, and Karen has the 2 pieces to the amendment.
Yeah, I just wanted to know to send notices out. Thank you. Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black.
Yes.
Senator Russell Black, yes. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Maggie O'Neill, absent. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield.
Yes.
Representative Thomas Schofield, yes. Representative Lori Osher, absent. Representative Joseph Underwood, absent. Representative Scott Landry.
Yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative William Pluker.
Yes.
Representative William Pluker, yes. Representative Jeffrey Gifford, absent. Representative David McCray, absent. Representative Susan Bernard, absent. 7 yes and 6 absent.
On LD 1944, an act to provide State Harness Racing Commission greater efficacy and rules enforcement. It passes with 7 in favor, ought to pass as amended, and 6 absent. And with that, I will close the work session on LD 1944. And thank you, Representative Dunphy. And thank you, Director Jennings. Is there anything else to come before us, Karen, at this time?
Not this afternoon or this morning. So
Right.
quick, it's still morning.
So quick, it's still morning. Cheryl, anything from you?
I'm all set. Thank you.
We do have a quick chairs and leads right after this, so if you folks would stay on, that would be great. Thank you all. Motion to adjourn. So moved. Thank you.